Hey everyone, this is Brady Cargill with Brand Builders. Today I have a really awesome guest for this. So I have John Gillham with Authority Website Income, Content Refine, Motion Invest, a new tool called SiteBuddy, and he owns quite a bit of Brand Builders. So he is a serial entrepreneur, smartest guy in any room he walks into, and he's got some really great tips for anyone looking to start their entrepreneurial journey or really take their business to the next level. John, how's it going?
Yeah, great. And if you're in a room and I'm the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. But yeah, no, it's great to be here, Brady, and excited to chat with you. And
Yeah, super excited to have you on. So tell us about how did you get started with entrepreneurship?
yeah, so it university days always kind of had some kind of like little hustle go on the go, like international edition textbooks. I was paying $160 for the same textbook that you could buy in overseas for $10, and I just get some buddies together and we buy 30 of them and all save a bunch of beer money. So that like always had sort of those kind of side hustles on the go. And then when it got serious was when I was working at a co-op and new startup in the kind of hard tech and the engineering space, and sort of discovered Upwork and Odesk at the time, and it was kind of one of those like, holy crap, this world is incredible moments of like I can build a totally remote team, and this is like before remote was even kind of a word and the thing, and that sort of started me down the path of like, wow, there's all these resources available. How can I help coordinate these resources to come up with a system that can produce something of value? And so that was sort of a fairly long process to finally find that sort of thing that hit. But I'd say that moment that sort of like, oh, this is totally what I'm going to be doing. It was kind of the discovery of Upwork and Odesk, and like this world is incredible. It's crazy.
You mentioned kind of being able to build this remote team and provide, like, create value where none existed before. And I think this is such a disconnect with how people for sure who are, say, like 25 and younger define entrepreneurship most of the times. It's start a business and make a ton of money and then get a Lambo. So how would you define entrepreneurship?
Yeah, solving problems. Solving problems with resources in an efficient way. But I mean, ultimately, the best entrepreneurs I know are always frustrated with the systems and always looking to say like, there's a better way to do this, better way to do this. There's a way to solve this problem, and that's something that I was under 25 at one point, and my maturity level still there. But the I was there as well. Like the like, oh man, I just saw that on this forum. This guy did that. Like it's like this. There's got to be an easier way. And any time that I've had any success, it is usually tracked back to a focus on always adding value. And so that's now become sort of central to everything that happens, and has been for a while. But anytime I tried to find a shortcut and sort of avoid the hard work, it sucked. Anytime that I sort of embraced the suck and did the hard work and made sure we focused on adding value, then things went well.
When you talk about embracing the suck, what do you think is probably one of the more difficult things you've had to go through as an entrepreneur? It's not a fair question. There's a list, half a mile long about, oh gosh,
Yeah, the hardest. There's always so especially I've been at this now 10 plus years. A bunch of different businesses that I could disappear tomorrow and would do quite well. But it's still an online world, always feels like go away tomorrow. And so I'd say the hardest sort of like single event was the decision to leave the day job with family and pursue the online venture full time, even though the income from the online side was outstripping the day job, and put a bunch of controls in place to sort of make that leap. That was probably the hardest point. And then there's always the like HR issues are always HR and legal issues are always the ones that sort of like immediately bubble to the top, but sort of like taking those out of the way, that decision point.
What do you think about leaving your day job? You were making more money with the online businesses, right?
Yeah.
What about leaving the job was so difficult then?
Yeah. So my risk profile is fairly conservative, both from an investment standpoint, a whole bunch of online world chaos, exposed to cryptocurrencies. And so like a bunch of online stuff is chaos. But my sort of general risk profile is very conservative. And as a result of that, and I had a, mechanical engineering degree, working in oil and gas on a successful career trajectory, liked my job, liked where we lived, like our friends, but we wanted to get back to our hometown, which is where I'm at now, where the team's based. And so that certainly the leap into uncertainty was risky. Although, now being kind of August 2020, I just read today that ExxonMobil, which is the company that I work for, just got removed from the Dow index, just as a sort of a reflection on its shrinking market cap. And so, layoffs haven't hit that company, like in my old employer, extremely hard. But the certainty of the illusion of certainty of the day job certainly had me. Now that sort of like I'm outside and that bubble's burst. It's not as certain as you think when you're on they make you think when you're on the inside.
Yeah. And I think there's so much risk with having a day job that people just don't realize. Like it's the exact, so a lot of our audience is in the affiliate space. And one big fear is you're always going to be hit by a Google update, always going to be hit by an Amazon rate change. And what they don't realize is it's the exact same as working in a day job. Like you can be hit with these changes, with these quote unquote updates just out of the blue.
Like there's no way to avoid uncertainty in life. Like maybe I haven't found it. So the only thing that you can do is build kind of both organizational capacity, your own capacity, and your site's kind of anti-fragility to be able to handle that uncertainty. That is going to happen. So Amazon is going to change their affiliate program in some way in the future. Certain that's going to happen. If your entire, like, it's a great revenue stream, it's awesome. But if that's your entire sort of livelihood built off the back of that, without any other, probably time to start looking at some other opportunities to take what and take the resources you have and find other ways of using the skills that you have to add value and generate an income.
So do you feel like in the balance, being an entrepreneur is more or less secure than having a day job?
So always will depend. So in my personal case, right now, my entrepreneurship trajectory and setup is more secure than my day job was. And my day job was a fairly secure oil and gas engineering degree, successful company kind of trajectory. So, and now I'm definitely safer. At the start, that wouldn't have been the case. And so I don't generally recommend, like, again, with my risk profile, I generally recommend people plan that leap out. I know some people love to sort of promote the leap and then build, and that's awesome. That sounds exciting. Also it's terrifying. But so generally I recommend the sort of like plan it out and then make the leap. But yeah, I think, and security is one piece of it, but what I always tell, and I like to think about my team now as sort of like a team of entrepreneurs, and everyone gets to design their own life however they choose to design it, and there is no path to sort of living an exceptional life that is as achievable as through entrepreneurship, where you can totally design your business and your life around whatever you're passionate about. And you can't do that when you're in sort of like when you're a cog in a wheel that needs you to show up at a certain time and spin a certain way.
Are you trying to sell me on quitting my job?
Trying to sell you on continued entrepreneurship.
There we go. So it sounds like you think entrepreneurship is at least not always more risky than a day job.
For sure.
Okay,
For sure.
But it has much higher upside.
Yeah.
So who would you say should not be an entrepreneur?
I mean, I've got some great friends that are super content, like play like day jobs, fulfilling for them. Teachers come to mind. A couple of teacher friends love their day job, love their summers off, love the sort of certainty, the risk reduction of kind of pensions and that and like work with kids and coaching. And so, if who shouldn't, if you're, if the life that you choose to live fits into the day job model, awesome. No, nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, so this is one thing that I ask myself a lot. So I can tell you the purpose of my life from now until the day I die is to inspire and empower entrepreneurs. That's it. That's it. I feel like every problem that has ever been solved has been solved by someone who can do what you were saying and create value out of nothing, who can see solutions where none existed before, who have this gift of creativity and almost self-organization, mental organization, where they can kind of find a way to do something that's never been done before. And like I figure if I can empower those people, then the whole world's going to be okay. Like then we can solve illnesses, we can solve the problem of aging and world hunger and all of this. But one thing that I always ask myself is, well, when should I stop helping people? So if my purpose is to inspire and empower entrepreneurs, then like, does that mean I shouldn't help scientists? Or what is the true definition of an entrepreneur? Is it just related to business, or is it someone who can create value where none existed before?
Yeah, I think it's so great question. And I think that sort of entrepreneurial problem solving mindset can exist in organizations, and it doesn't have to be, like is like coming back to the teacher. If a teacher that starts up a club to address a problem of, after school care for kids, a certain segment of kids, and it solves a problem and has to go and, secure funding, secure the resources to be able to push that program through, that's all an entrepreneurial skill set. And I think coming back to like who are you helping and how important is that as a skill set? I think about the future for my kids, and I got a few of them. That skill set of entrepreneur, like that skill set of seeing a problem and being like, don't just, bitch about the problem, go find a solution and solve the problem. And commercial resources to solve the problem. Like you don't have wood for your fort that you're trying to build, be entrepreneurial and go figure out how to get wood for your fort. Don't just come to me and whine about it. Just, solve that problem I think that is a skill set that sort of relates to entrepreneurship that holds people in good standing, regardless of whether they're in a career or not.
Yeah, and I think this is, we've been going through the book, How Google Works. How Google Works is not about SEO, but it's about how these people built this company just by creating these amazing systems, creating this amazing product, and hiring this amazing team. And one of the things they talk about their team is they call them smart creatives. So it's not just people who are good at their jobs, but it's people who can be systems oriented and can also be solution oriented, who aren't so deep in their work that they can't see reality, but who aren't, so deep in reality that they can't actually figure out how to solve a problem. But anyways, yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, John's the majority owner of Brand Builders, so I work for him. And I think this is one thing you're really good at, is finding these smart creatives who do have this drive for entrepreneurship, but even more than a title of entrepreneurship, have this desire to create new solutions where none existed before, be systems and solutions oriented. And I think that, I think when you put that together, that's true entrepreneurship.
Yeah, there's a dichotomy that Peter Thiel talks a lot about. Super brilliant guy that is fun to just listen to how he thinks about the world. Where he talks about, there's the dualities and like looking for unique combinations in people, and that's where kind of the magic happens. Like you talk about, and you can't have people that are just 100% creative because stuff doesn't get organized and executed. You can't have within an entrepreneurship setup. You can't have people that are just pure cogs because, spinning on something that isn't adding value is they can be content to do that. And so trying to find that combo of people that have the sort of like the creativity to identify the problem and solve the issues and be consistent about execution is a unique trait that everyone doesn't have, but that is, I think, essential to being successful for whatever whatever you do that has sort of an undefined path to proceed through, which, generally entrepreneurship does by definition.
Yeah. So when did you start to kind of touch upon this? I don't even know what to call it. Like this, it's the silver bullet of entrepreneurship. When in your life did this kind of start to take off? And when did you start to make some, not just like beer money, but actually, let's say like a couple hundred to a couple $1,000 a month? What was your progress there?
Yeah, so it was kind of like Discover Odesk, super cool spot. Like, now we've spent over $1.5 million on Odesk since my account got opened on there. So we've used it a lot. So it was kind of that discovery was neat. And then like I was like kind of into computer strategy games, and this was like, oh cool, I'll just play online. And it wasn't until that, like, I think it started making a bit of money, like kind of, hitting that $1,000 a month, a couple $1,000 a month. But where it really kind of like the trajectory changed was when I said, okay, this isn't just a game. I need to like, this is my path to like, what's the lifestyle design that I want? And this is my path to achieving that. And once I'm like, delete all computer games off my computer, and focus on, looking at my previous successes, which had been things like, kind of my path to my first 1,000 would have been a website where I was selling Excel sheets, templates that had, and I know you'll get a kick out of this, Excel sheet templates that had some financial formulas cut into them. And so it made the process of, a few different activities at the time a lot easier for people. And so for like, here's a video on how to do it yourself, or here's, like $19 to download the spreadsheet yourself and save 2 hours of time. And people like, that was probably my path to my first 1,000. But once I looked at my successes and kind of really at that point honed in on, focusing on always adding value, and stopped playing and started really focusing, that's when the sort of trajectory went from that sort of like beer money, play money to sort of, affording a lifestyle money.
You said once you stopped playing and started really kind of focusing on that, but you were full-time employed, right?
Yep.
How did you find the time to mix those two?
Yeah. And so that was also sort of like, it had been before, like, oh, like I just, weekend, love to hang out this afternoon, grab a beer and, relax. And then it turned into like, no, I'm scheduling time. And at times it got quite crazy, where, I was working at the day job. There were some times where, work would be 60 to 80 hour weeks already. And then I was still carving out time every night, and, eyes bleeding kind of work. But once the kind of rewards were starting to be shown, it was clear that was the path. And yeah, it was a good probably 3-year period of, a fairly extreme work schedule that had like, 60 to 80 hour work weeks at the day job sometimes, and then still trying to find time to get the online work done. And the key to that was certainly my wife we had agreed on the plan, and she was good at sort of holding me accountable to the plan, which was appreciated on my end.
So you had a family at this time, you had a full-time job, and you still carved out time in between your 80-hour weeks to work on your entrepreneurship. What kind of superhuman freak are you, John? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What motivated you, inspired you to, you've worked 16 hours today. You've still got to spend time with wife and do you have kids at this point?
Yeah, they're asleep though by the time I'm getting home.
Gotcha. So what motivated you?
And those 80-hour weeks were like 2 months of the year. Would have been those would have been those crazy times. The rest were just kind of like still big weeks, like 50 hours, but not that insanity.
Okay, so you only worked 50 hours a week most days, most weeks. Gotcha. What drove you and inspired you? Like you're a petroleum engineer, something like that?
Mechanical engineer, but working in oil and gas.
Okay, so you weren't starving, right?
No.
You probably didn't.
No. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was like I said, I enjoyed it, like ridiculous levels of responsibility, really cool problems to solve. Lots of, at times, even those crazy hours were fun. Like I didn't hate my day job. I hated to some extent, I hated kind of the life that I was living, and especially the sort of like the live for the weekend. I'm not going to get to see my kids. Like I'm not going to get to go mountain biking with them at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, just because I want to and it's sunny out. And so, what drove me was family, to be able to sort of identify, to give them sort of, it was no longer just about giving kind of me and my wife a great life, which at the time, like, hey, like, cool, you're working your job, I'm working my job, go on some vacations, hang out with friends on the weekend. This isn't bad. Neither of us don't mind our job. But then once kids came into the picture and we're like, man, like after school care, like do we get a nanny? Crap. Like I want to, it's not just about providing an exceptional life for myself, but it's like, how can I be there for my kids and provide an exceptional life for them? And so now I've got to cut down to some numbers. Like if I can get on snow 75 days a year and be at the cottage 50 days a year, then that's, those are cooked into my goals for the year. Didn't quite, coronavirus kind of got in the way of the 75 days on snow, but it was good. It was a good cottage summer.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm sure that this was probably challenging for your family with you working so many hours.
It was challenging, but I don't know. I didn't see them. No, I'm joking. It was, so my wife comes from a competitive sports background. And as do many people, but she got it. Like she understood sort of the, there's a kind of like, I think one of the challenges in sort of one of the misconceptions is that like if it's hard, you're doing it wrong, and that's not the case. Like I don't know how to do it the easy way, and so she fully got that and fully supported that. Like, yeah, it's going to be stupid hours. Here's your food. It's in the fridge. Enjoy. Like and also holding me accountable if the family was making the sacrifice. And if I dogged it for a day and didn't put in the work that was needed, it's kind of like, take your time if you need some time off, but like, we're all in this together. So don't kind of like, it wasn't about, I wasn't the only one making the sacrifice. Even though I was the one doing the work, it was certainly a kind of a team effort to get the sort of like the free time for me to be able to do what was needed.
Sounds like your family's supportive then.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who is in a position where, say they're married or they're in a serious relationship and their boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever isn't being that supportive?
Give it time. This is crazy, right? Like I would say that she was extremely supportive, but also like an exceptionally good balance of saying like really, we're gonna leave your engineering job that we just like, how much money do we just spend on school for you to get an engineering degree, and you're gonna go like make some spreadsheets and build some websites? Like, how does that make sense? So the path to that on our end was tracking the numbers and setting very detailed goals of, this income, like what do we need, this income stream from multiple isolated sources with this level of runway in the bank. That criteria is hit, then pull the plug, and then getting them involved in the tracking of that progress. And there was, I don't say not support, because there was always support, but there was certainly a healthy level of skepticism of saying, why would you do this versus what we have now, which is good. And so I would say, give it time. This, everyone kind of comes into kind of the entrepreneurship and, remote work. I think it's a lot more popular now and understood now than it was even, 7 years ago. So I'd say give it time, but I mean, if someone's totally misaligned with where you want to be going, then it's a long life.
Not much you can do about that, I don't guess.
It's like, yeah, kick rocks. See you later.
At what point, what were the metrics you had in place? You said, I've got this great job on a good path. When were you looking to leave that?
Yeah, so I had a goal of by the age of 35 to be so there was an income target that would replace the day job, and as long as that was coming from a couple sources, and achieving that by the age of 35 with I think we had a year of runway was the target. So year of runway, income replacement plus some from multiple sources. So it couldn't be just it needed to be covered from a couple ways. That one Amazon update, one Google update couldn't wipe out the entire sort of income stream. So those were the criteria. We did hit it early, which was excellent, and then pulled the income stream hit faster than the runway hit, and then so we sold an asset to sort of trade in some cash, trade in some income to build up the runway. And then that put us in the position to have sort of the year runway plus the target income from multiple sources.
Sounds like you were very disciplined and like you had your targets and you were willing to sell a business to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, as I love the goals. I love the targets. I love tracking metrics. And that's been something that, has been consistent. It's annoying for people, but it's great for. I don't know how to do it any other way. Otherwise, like if you don't have a scorecard, how do you know if you're winning or not?
And you mentioned having income from multiple assets online. So were you working on multiple businesses at the same time?
Yeah. I had sort of like an FBA business, portfolio of content sites, predominantly Amazon affiliate with some display, and then some productized services. Sort of, I blogged about what I was doing at a throw to income, and then had some productized services built off the back of that, specifically around link building. So those were kind of the main channels, and then other businesses have been added since one or two.
Yeah, one or two. That's interesting because most of the times I recommend that when people are getting started, they focus all their efforts into one business. Would you say that you have different advice? Because it sounds like you have had a different experience.
So I do it wrong. I know I do it wrong, but it depends on what you're trying to optimize for. So I have like fought this internally and within my organization forever. Like stop launching new shit, John. Is like that's been sort of like very consistent, and now I've come to grips with it in terms of redefining the organization as building sort of like a team of entrepreneurs with organizational capacity to launch projects. That's what we are now. But I fought that for a long time because I was like, you should focus on one. So 95% of people will achieve more success focusing on one. I'm not saying I'm one of the 5. I would probably also achieve more success focusing on one, but it's also fun to launch stuff. And so like, part of entrepreneurship, like it's like, what's the point of doing this if you're not having fun? And so whenever I've like focused on one project for way too long, the creativity side isn't getting tickled enough. And so, I mean, like no one's here to tell me not to. This is fun. So that's what I'm doing. I would probably achieve more financial success and if I were to pick one and focus on it.
Gotcha. That's interesting. You said that it depends on what you're looking to optimize for. So I take a bit of a contrarian view to this. I think now I'm a young guy, so that's a slight bias there. I think diversification as far as web assets is a little overrated. Use the Amazon affiliate site, for example. Yep. So what diversification means to most people, and this depends on definitions a bit, but diversification to most people is start new sites. Whereas I think really instead of going like wide, you can go deep and it be a lot more diversified really. So instead of having 10 sites that are all dependent on Google and all depend on Amazon, yeah, they're in different niches, but still they've got the same points of failure. If you just focus on one site, get, say the same amount of traffic just going to one site. Now you can do email marketing, you can diversify other affiliate programs, get hooked up with like direct ad networks. Like really your options for monetization and getting traffic is just a lot larger. I understand that's a bit of a contrarian view, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's if you're excited to work on that every day, then that is awesome. I totally agree. I think what people fall into is especially if they've sort of picked a niche that they're not super energized about, then their output suffers, and as a result of their output suffering, their results suffer. And so I think one of my favorite words when it comes to sort of like business and strategy and your sort of business model is congruency, and you've got to have congruency from who you are and your mindset down through your entire structure, whether that's the team setups, the site setup. So I think there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of different ways that people achieve success in this world, and it's whatever you need to sort of find the system, whatever you're strongest at, play to your strengths, not mitigate your weaknesses. And so if you're focused on one specific niche, great writer, hammer on that. If that's not your strength, then find another strategy. So, but to answer your question, I think it's a great strategy. I think there are a lot of people that have achieved an incredible amount of success focusing on a single project, single site, and going deep.
Yeah, I think that congruency is important. And I'm a bit of a unique individual, I think, in that I can just take one thing and just stick with it until the end. Like I was in high school when Minecraft got popular, and me and my friends would all play Minecraft, and my skill was like, Brady, you go dig for diamonds. Like that's it. You don't build
level
things.
12, 13.
That's right. just build straight down, and just go do that one monotonous thing. And I think that spills over into my work life. But I think congruency is a huge factor. And I think a lot of people who are getting started in entrepreneurship say, oh, I've got to do the same things as Spencer or John or this guy who I saw on a Facebook or YouTube ad. Like, oh my gosh, shoot my head now. But it's always like, well, let me follow the crowd. And I think the question you need to ask yourself is, what business model is most suited to you? So one thing I'm discovering about myself, I love people, love chatting with people, love hopping on calls, and love getting on podcasts and YouTube and whatever. Hate emails. Like I just despise them. So the service industry, which that's probably not the best place for me long term, because it's always responding to custom emails, like custom orders and so on. So I think this figuring out who you are and what your skill set is aligned to is huge for entrepreneurs. And the only way to figure that out is by trying stuff and probably even failing stuff, So you talk about your tendency to start new businesses. What does your current portfolio look like?
Yeah, so we've got a mix of things, always launching new stuff. So when I think about the portfolio now, I think about kind of the team first. So a lot of people have sort of shied away from building a team. I've really enjoyed it. I think winning as a team is a lot more fun. So we've got a team that we have morning meetings with. Most of the people on that team have P&L responsibility for a specific part of the business where they get assigned a project. And so the portfolio right now looks like I've got my kind of money sites. I've got my portfolio sites, which have a lot of exposure to Amazon affiliates, some e-commerce, a little bit of FBA, and that's sort of the portfolio side. Growing it specifically on the e-commerce side, putting in some effort around that. I think there's some opportunities that are underutilized on affiliate site to e-commerce migration in some unique niches. So that's where the portfolio is focused right now. And then I've got my blog where I talk about what I do at websiteincome.com. And then off that, I have some productized services, website buying and selling, which I do a ton of. And we just sort of put a brand around that with Spencer and Kelly at Motion Invest, Content Refines, content marketing arm, and then Lightning Rank is a link building service, and then Brand Builders is sort of a end-to-end solution for site build and all the other services. So those have been sort of the steady ones. And then I've got Site Buddy launching this sort of right now, basically, which is a tool for Amazon affiliates to make more money with their site, which is cool. And then we have a sort of enterprise SaaS arm, which is working on really boring, ignored problems, but trying to kind of break into that, use some of my online marketing skill set, partnered with somebody to build some solutions for these really boring problems like online fire permits. And that's fun and going well. And a couple other things on the go as well. So yes, lots of projects, but the team, I rarely am put as the point of responsibility for any of these projects. And there's a team of sort of an entrepreneur that's in charge of each of these projects.
How do you get your ideas for starting new projects?
Usually it's a problem that I have. So like Motion Invest was a problem that I had that sort of identified. Motion Invest, buying and selling sites. There's nowhere to do that successfully for sort of sub $50,000 sites. Flippa sucks. It serves its purpose, but it's like you never feel good about sending somebody inexperienced to Flippa. And then larger sites, brokers fit well, but that's sort of like even the sub 100K content site niche. There's a bit of a hole there that Motion Invest is clearly filling well. And then Site Buddy, having a VA crawl through your site to check affiliate tags seems pretty stupid to do and annoying. And so Site Buddy uses a connection to Amazon, crawls your site, and automatically identifies if the products that you're linking to are either in stock, out of stock, or what your tags are. And you can get an immediate 10% lift on revenue using Site Buddy. So it's been a great solution for my own portfolio and the people that have used it so far.
Yeah, I was chatting with Spencer just last night, and so disclaimer, part owner of Site Buddy here, but he was saying that he'd used it on his niche site project 4, and he had looked at the affiliate tags in all of his links, and he had noticed that some of his writers had put in wrong affiliate tags. Is that the writer's affiliate tag? Is that just laziness and they copy someone else's affiliate tag? But these are posts that are ranking on the first page of Google that just have these affiliate tags that they're not his. Like some writer's profiting off. Yeah, I mean, really, it's like someone
Right.
is just taking money from his site. It's just free money that he's getting back by using Site Buddy, which is just incredible.
Yeah, no, it's great little solution. And then sometimes I'll just find the problems that are just annoying that need to be solved. And if there's like I said, the organizational capacity building, and if I can throw some part of the organization to solve a problem, hopefully there's a business model in there. But if not, I'm just happy to see something, a stupid problem get solved.
Yeah, and one thing that strikes me as interesting is the problems that you're solving are things that you've experienced yourself. I think one problem with a lot of younger entrepreneurs who are looking to get into the game, I knew I fell into this as an 18, 19-year-old who wanted to be super wealthy one day. And that was my entire motivation, by the way, which is wrong. But I think it's that they think they can just do X or Y or Z, like drive, Facebook ads to some ClickFunnels and make money, when really it all comes down to what problem are you solving for the world. And it's very difficult to know what problems exist and what problems you can solve unless you're out there doing stuff. So one piece of advice that I give to entrepreneurs all the time is it's great that you want to start a business. Great that you want to make an impact, or you want to retire at 30 with $1 million, whatever your motivation is. But you probably need to go out in the world, get a real job, get your butt kicked, figure out what's wrong, and then find a way to solve that somewhere. If your entrepreneurial thing's your side hustle, whatever, but you've got to get life experience and you've got to figure out what's wrong.
100%. Like, I mean, whether that's like it can be through volunteering, it can be through anything, but you can't until you like, it always has to start with a problem. And this is like, whether it comes out of like, let's call it startup world, they're focused on like problem first. When you start with money first, it does not work. Some super clever people, like, you always kind of hear about it as like a secondary person, like, yeah, my buddy's friend is killing it with traffic arbitrage. Like, awesome, but there's not really like, where's the value add? Like, there's usually, those are usually short-lived opportunities. Like, same with like aggressive black hat SEO. Great income streams, not necessarily problem solving. Like, a business model, and a popular online business model that I you know don't recommend is like the sort of the Me Too dropship sort of just like Facebook to a site, Facebook ads to a similar product. Great income stream, but not sort of building a solution to a problem.
How would you recommend that beginner entrepreneurs figure out what problems need solving?
Um, you, People rarely have a single interest in life, and so I would say, like, if it's got a friend that is sort of pursuing something in the kind of bike industry, knows that industry extremely well, works within that industry, solving a problem that he's uniquely qualified to be able to solve. So it's about kind of meshing whatever your kind of capabilities are. Brady, you're amazing at sort of like, talking to people and sort of building those relationships. And how do you mesh that with a problem that you're looking to, that is needing to be solved, that you understand? And so whether it can be a hobby that you're interested in, and then what is the professional skill set that you're bringing to that? And usually the combination of those two things reveals a pain point in that sort of combo. Like in the RC cars, there might be something there with whatever your unique capabilities are, to say that you can address a problem there.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like that's kind of the foundation of your whole business today is what problems exist that I can solve, and then just utilizing your resources and team to do that. But where do you see yourself in 5-10 years with your business? What's next for John?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm having a blast right now. I mean, the team's fun. Projects are going well, launching new stuff, embracing, and no longer fighting the launching new things. Like, oh, I have an idea, great, we can do something now. We've just hired three staff, all some of our strongest applicants that we've had, which has been awesome. And so right now I'm having a good time. I would love to get the sort of there's always a seek for stability that I'm not sure if I'm just like chasing something that can never get caught. I think that might be the case, because you'll never sort of like, I would love to be in a situation where an entire summer off would be, not that I would ever do that, but would be achievable. An entire month off in the winter, I mean, I can kind of do that, but not really. And so I'd love, the business still requires me to put in significant effort to keep the machine running. And I would love to get to the stage where, and I think the sort of enterprise SaaS arm of this is part of the hope of that. And then also increasing the size of the existing projects to the point where the managers have support systems within them. So that's continue the trajectory that we're on, and sort of increased focused on stable assets.
As you've grown your portfolio, have you figured out that there's like a certain type of business that you really like?
Usually they're the ugly ones, like that require people and processes to be able to execute. Like the content marketing business is really fun because it's really, really hard to do well. You need to mesh tools, you need to mesh strategy, you need to mesh personalities and editors and systems, And so it's really, really, really hard to do that business well. And it's really easy to do that business poorly. And so those projects where they're complex systems to be able to be executed well are ones that are pretty fun for me to dig into.
Hmm. Okay, neat. And do you see yourself starting more of those in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I
Nice.
don't have any right now, but like, yeah, I might
I
have
think you've
one
got several
someday.
running right now, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's a few on the go, a couple launching, Site Buddy, and then you got another kind of like one like this in the kind of Amazon FBA space addressing a problem there. But yeah, I'm sure I'll launch more.
That's awesome. And then what is your so entrepreneurial end goal? When do you hit the brakes and say, I'm done, going to live on a beach in Mexico?
So I don't think I ever. So it's fun. I don't think I ever will. I you know there's some numbers that would be fun to hit. That would make I mean never need to think about money again. But I'm not sure. Like I don't. I don't think I ever will. I think I would annoy my wife too much if I was at home the whole time. um, but yeah, no, I would be. It'd be. I don't think I ever will. Is the right answer right now.
Gotcha. I have the opposite perspective. Like by the time I'm middle aged, I'm done. I'm done.
You're done.
I'm calling it. I'm quitting.
And
So
what are you
if
doing?
oh gosh, I don't know. Beach in Mexico. I've thought about this. So, I like to travel a lot. Spencer Hawes and I from Niche Pursuits were chatting yesterday, and we had a time mishap. And he's like, "Hey, are you ready for our meeting in 2 minutes?" And I was like, "I thought it was in 3 hours." So I'm on top of the tallest peak in Rio de Janeiro. I'm like, I got like the fastest way down is if I jump. So I've always thought like, what would I do? So of course, like I travel a lot. That's something I love.
Yep.
I've always thought like maybe I'd start like some little tour company, like not with the real goal of making a big profit,
Yep.
but just with the goal of like giving me something to do, like
Yep.
just kind of being fun. Um,
Cool.
but I think so. I've seen people ask this question a lot, like, "Oh, well, after you retire, what next? Aren't you just going to get bored?" And I don't see it that way. I think that that's a flawed view of what it means or what it should mean to retire. I think for me, and I'm trying to convince other people to have the same view, is that retirement shouldn't be a time when you quit. It should be a time when you're comfortable in your finances. You never have to go to work at a job you dislike again. And you can work on the projects that you're passionate about. So not that you sit around sipping margaritas or watching football all day, but it's that, hey, I'm really passionate about giving clean water to children in Africa. Or what, like Bill Gates has cured malaria. Like that's his retirement. So I think entrepreneurs and people in general need this shifted view of what it means to retire. So when I say the word retire, like what would that mean to you?
So
Like
let's
what
say
would
let's say I'm mostly retired now. Like, like in terms of working on what I want to work on and not necessarily needing to do things like I spent yesterday all day doing something that is probably not going to be the highest return on my time from an income standpoint, but it was a fun project. Um, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I feel like I'm in a relatively comfortable state of being able to work on the things that I want to work on. I think they're not all as stable as I want them to be. And so I'd say maybe like I certainly are not calling it retirement. To me, retirement will be when those projects are to the point where they absolutely don't need me. Um, and I can totally choose to work or not work, and continued growth will occur. And I don't think I'm there yet. So
how many hours a
um,
week are you working?
summertime varies. So I'll be from 30 to 60 summer, and then fall's usually my growth time. So I usually go through these phases of like my summer schedule is I work ridiculous long day Monday, ridiculously long day Tuesday, and then go to the cottage. So kind of and then just keep up on emails through that time, and so put in sort of like 15-hour days, Monday, Tuesday, and then just keep up on stuff through the rest of the week. And then fall's usually my growth time, where I put in a few really long days a week. That's what, like, almost every one of my businesses that I've launched has been in the fall most of the time. And then winter, I like skiing, and so that dialed back my hours. And then summer, I like the cottage, and so again, dial back the hours to a modified schedule. So it varies through the year, but somewhere usually between 30 and 60.
I get it out. You're not retired, John. I don't know what that is, but it's not retirement. But no, it sounds like you're in the position where if you seriously wanted to scale back, would you say you have that option?
Yeah. Yeah, I just cut down to the projects that were the ones that are sort of the if I cut all growth projects, I would cut my days by 50% at least.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, cool. So wrapping up, if you had any advice for your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a lot in this chat, which I think is great, but sort of that embrace the suck, add value first. There are no shortcuts, despite what you read, and like that sort of like the envy of like, but this guy's doing this. It looks so easy, so good. I should just do that. It'd be great. It doesn't exist. Ignore that and just embrace the suck. Find problems to solve, and always add value. And I think that would have. I think I got there pretty quick, and I think that's also like that's congruent advice for myself. Other people find a different path through that, but that's what I would say to a lot of people. I think be strong advice, and especially the sort of like the working with a lot of younger people. Don't feel like I'm old, but working with a lot of people that are a lot younger than me, and they're fantastic. The sort of the snowflake generation is a problem. Those that embrace the sort of snowflake, everything's wrong in the world, and it's other people's job to fix it. That's a problem for people that's a problem for people that want to be entrepreneurs that sort of have that mindset.
Yeah, that's a serious problem, and I struggle to relate to people who are close to my age. So I'm 23, and it can be difficult to find someone my age who I share a similar mindset with, because there's this whole idea in culture that suffering is bad. And some suffering is like, if you're being tortured at the hands of a maniac, like there's nothing good about that. But if you are working to improve yourself, there's no way to do that except through suffering. And you just have to grow. I think you've called it the entrepreneurial muscle.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to touch on that, but yeah, totally agree that like this sort of like, I can't count the number of times that I've been told like, John, you're going to burn out, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to work to failure. That's how you grow. I'm going to work until I can't work anymore, and then I'm going to stop working, and the next time I go and work, I'm going to be able to work longer. When the external forces are putting on you that are extreme, then that can potentially become bad where you work beyond failure. But it's the exact same, I call it the entrepreneur muscle, because it's the exact same as, how do you grow muscle? You work it to failure, you rest it, you work it to failure, and it strengthens over time. And I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm sure I'm wrong, but the sort of like simple analogy that I continue to use, and it works extremely well, is whatever it is that you're trying to get better at, do it until you fail and then work again. And this sort of like thought process of like, the sort of like always stay calm, never stress yourself out, never work too hard. Like, it's like, and that's how you hit peak performance. It's like, that's like saying a runner, like never run, like you're training for a marathon. So like, let's rest up for 6 months. Just make sure you never stress yourself out so you're ready. It's like, no, you have to, build that muscle, work to failure, and then reset and work to failure again.
Do you have any tips for working out that entrepreneurial grit muscle?
So I think the big one that I've seen is anytime it's like, oh man, like, and I remember this, not as much right now, but like back in the day job days of like every day that I skipped, like it's like come home, okay, I got to put in 2 hours. Like I can't, like I am fried. Every day that I skipped, it made the next day easier to skip. Every day that I didn't skip, especially when it was a uniquely painful day, it's like, oh man, you build that self-confidence of like, I still sat down and got the work done that needed to get done. and you can be, you build that confidence. I'm proud of achieving that. And so it was usually the case of you just got to sit down, even if it's not a very productive night. It's still you've still like you measure your productivity in terms of building your own internal capabilities versus your total output. And so just sitting down and getting a bit of work done has benefits beyond just the work that got done when you're fried.
All right, now we're going to get into some rapid fire questions for you, John. So what is one tool that you can't live without in your online business?
Yeah, so it's not, email, but it's not a tool exactly, but it's a tactic around email, and that's snoozing mail. So getting to email zero and then tagging the emails for follow up and being able to snooze them. It used to be Boomerang, but now that Gmail came out with Snooze, that's just sort of one thing that I would be a mess if I couldn't do that. Yeah, email would just end up being a total disaster if I couldn't snooze to get to email zero.
And what are you reading or consuming right now?
So right now, Legacy, and it's about the New Zealand All Blacks, and sort of their culture shift, and about sort of accountability and better people make better All Blacks. So yeah, cool book about kind of the culture of winning.
You're not reading an entrepreneur book or something by Gary Vee about how to hustle harder?
There's probably some related. There's could be some similarities between the messages that the All Blacks send out and as well kind of Gary Vee. But yeah, I like getting into some biographies about like my favorite books are usually books about kind of people that did something in business or related, like endurance. One of my favorite books around Edward Shackleton and sort of traversing the Antarctica and just with ridiculous odds how that kind of group pulled through it.
I'll have to put that on my list. What is one successful strategy that you've done this year that someone can imitate today?
Yeah, so I've had success in meshing tools, and so what I mean by that is like identifying criteria in a tool like Ahrefs to export. So this will get a little nerdy, but like identify metrics, identify the type of site that I'm trying to find and how I'm able to find that using Ahrefs, and then putting that into an outreach tool like SEMrush is a great link building tool. And so that sort of that meshing of tools, export from one input to another. Also, usually whenever you're using that, it usually means that there's a partial solution and that there might be some kind of complete tool that can be built. But those identifying those meshings of tools together has been pretty useful. And so specifically identifying criteria in Ahrefs and then putting it into the SEMrush link building tool has been a great tactic that allows us to efficiently kind of get in front of the people that we want to talk to.
And then what's one way that you've cut expenses in your business this year? Probably not by having Ahrefs and SEMrush at the same time.
Got them all. So here's trying to not have two Ahrefs accounts too many times, not have too many multiple accounts. So what we've done is each business would have a separate credit card, and now we've consolidated that all down to a single credit card. And then I have a weekly meeting where I review the credit card and hold them in for responsible for any of their expenses. And so systematizing that cost review has been a big change.
And then what is a great business that you don't think exists today?
Ooh, good one. Peter Thiel question. I like it. The electrification of personal transport, it's happening. It's like such a macro trend that's going to continue. But like, where's the Tesla of the e-bike world? Where's the Tesla of the sort of like the personal transport side? Not Segway, but like I think that electrification trend is going to be continuing, and I don't see that. I see a lot of fragmentation on like I think the personal transport side. Like e-bikes are just blown up in terms of popularity, but the tech, it's like battery into a bike. It's not. I think there's and it's all like niche. It seems like very niche players. I'm surprised there hasn't been that sort of like larger push, like a Tesla subsidiary down into that game. So I think that's not one that I'm going to build, but that's one that I think will come at some point here.
I was about to ask, since you're an idea guy, is that your next project?
No, no, maybe some exposure to that growth industry, but not. So I do have exposure to that growth industry, but I don't have definitely not the hardware game there.
Good advice. Any closing thoughts for listeners and watchers?
No, it was fun chat with Brady. I mean, it's always fun to chat, and it's great to be working with you. And yeah, this is great, and I look forward to kind of all of the other chats that you do with others in the space.
Likewise, yeah, I'm very excited. Well, all right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Have a great rest of your day. See you later.